Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tap Into Your Creativity. I am so excited for today. I have an incredible, amazing artist and coach joining us all the way from Victoria, British Columbia. And I'm going to ask there she is. Okay. Taves. And if you've never met her before, you are in for a treat. She is an incredible human being. And Cheryl, I am so excited that you're here with me today. Thank you so much for joining me and being here, and for the beautiful soul that I've gotten to know in the last couple of months here. It's just been such a treat to get to know you, and really thank you so much for being part of my army of artists.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've been following what you've been doing. I was so grateful to Robin Olson, who you interviewed and connected us, and we've had some really great chats prior to this interview. And yeah, I'm just really thrilled to be here and to be participating in such a wonderful, generous act of giving. So thank you for what you're doing, and I'm thrilled to be here. It's my first Instagram live, so it's yeah, I've done a lot of live coaching, in my programs, and but I've never actually been on Instagram live, so this is a whole new experience. So thank you for that opportunity as well.
Yes, like we say, always getting out of your comfort zone and doing something new. It's when the growth really comes through, and you know that better than anyone, and we'll know why. But to start the interview, please tell us your name, where you're from, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Cheryl Taves, and I live in Victoria, BC, Canada. So I'm on the west coast of Canada, and we're actually an island, very large island off the west coast of Canada. So I'm pretty close to Seattle, for those of you that are in the US. Beautiful weather here right now. I hate to say it for some of you that might be chilly, but it's like beautiful, almost like summer weather here. We're having a great little heat wave. So I'm here in my home studio, and I live in a rural community outside of the major city. So I live I'm really privileged to live in a beautiful setting, surrounded by forest and just really peaceful, beautiful country community here. So I'm just really thrilled. So what else can I tell you about myself? Been an
Well,
artist.
let's start from the beginning. Let's
Yeah.
start from like your childhood. Let's go there. Let's go, just like tell us a little bit about your younger years. Were you exposed to art? Were you, did you have that in your genes, or how did you come about to be an artist?
Well, yeah, it's so interesting because it wasn't really in my family. There was no artists around me. But I started, from a very early age drawing. It was just my obsession. I drew everything. And I even have a scrapbook of my drawings from when I was 5 or 6 years old. I kept them. My mother kept them, and I kept them in a scrapbook. So it was always with me. And I didn't, all through school, double blocks of art in high school. It was just, I knew that's what I wanted, who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. But I was a very shy and awkward child, and I didn't really have a lot of courage. And so when I graduated high school and was trying to make career choices, about what I was going to do, the idea of being an artist was not really supported by the conventions around me, not necessarily my parents, but just nobody was sort of saying, oh yeah, go for it. That'll be a great choice. So I decided to go to business school.
I did that too, Cheryl. You didn't know that about me, but I started with that. That was like, no. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, when I look back now, I'm grateful for all of the education that I did and the things that led up, because I've had many different careers. I was in real estate for 10 years. I was a fitness instructor for 10 years. And, I'd been an accountant and a conveyancer in a real estate office, bookkeeper. I've done a lot of things. And then some of you, like I have a coaching business called Insight Creative, and I recently released a blog post and talking a little bit about our brokenness. And I was talking with you a little bit about my history. And when I was 14, I was in a pretty serious car accident. And that really kind of blew my life apart, and I made a lot of bad choices later in life because I was so sure I was what I used to call damaged goods. You know, I felt really broken.
Mm.
And so I didn't really choose the right partner in life. I made a bad choice and ended up in a, you know, pretty destructive marriage for 11 years. And so coming out of all of that, you know, I ended up in several years of counseling and doing a lot of deep introspective work, trying to put my life back together. And what really came clear to me was I had abandoned myself. I had abandoned my art. I had no idea who I was anymore. And so I was on this mission at about age early 30s to kind of rediscover who I was. And at that point I was in real estate. And so I was sort of doing art quietly on the side. I started taking some life drawing classes and going at night, just sort of dabbling again. And I had these beautiful supportive friends who, you know, kept encouraging me and saying, you are an artist, you know, you need to keep going. And many of you may be familiar with the book, The Artist's Way. And that was a
Oh
book that
yeah.
was given to me at
Yeah.
that time. And so I really, you know, kind of connected with that message and just, and my dream was to go to art school. That's the dream I realized I'd given up on, you know? So when I was around in my early 40s, I met my current husband. I'd been single for quite a while and working in real estate. And I met him and we connected. And within a year or so, he said to me, go to school, go do it. And so I did and spent 3 years in a fine arts program here. And I just felt like, I felt like a sponge. I was just soaking up everything I could. It was like this opportunity. So I was a late bloomer, if you will, a late comer back to art. But it was just an amazing experience. But
I actually I love that because I think that you're more matured when you decided that you wanted to go back. So I think your vision was clear at that point. I think when we're in our 20s, we don't really know what we want and we jump into things that we think we know what we want. But when we're a little bit older, I think that maturity is you have a more clear path as to what you want and you're doing it because you want to do it, not because they're telling you you have to do it. And there's a huge difference there.
oh, you're so right. I mean, and I was just so willing. I was such a willing student at that point. I know I wouldn't have had the capacity or the wisdom at 20, and not that 20-year-olds can't, but I just know I wouldn't have. I didn't have that inner resilience or that inner expansiveness that is required to kind of explore the various avenues that you get dragged into in art school, because
Right,
you really
right,
do, right?
right, exactly.
But it was transformational. And then coming out of it, and this is so much about my story, I kind of came out of it thinking, okay, well, I've done my arts program, I'm ready to go. And I got represented by a you know, fairly prestigious local gallery right out of art school, which I was really pleased about. And then she closed within 2 years, and I started really struggling with my identity as an artist and trying to figure out who I was. And I had so much self-doubt. That's the part that I never got. There was no part of that in the education around art making, you know, the mindset,
Right,
the inner resilience that
right,
we need.
right,
And so
right.
everything that was going on inside of me and that had been for so long kind of came rushing forward at that point. And 10 years later, because I graduated in 2004, and 10 years later, I was still struggling. I was still in major resistance around making art and just in a lot of pain, you know, a lot of pain around it. And I almost quit at that point. But I ended up, as you know, I met Nicholas Wilton, who many of you
Yeah,
might know,
yeah.
tripped across him on Pinterest of all places and sort of pursued looking at his work, and then ended up on his website and was fortunate enough to be part of one of his mentorship programs at that time. And that, you know, that just opened everything up at that point. Everything just started opening up. And Nick was really astute in that he recognized it was really my mindset, my thinking, my limiting beliefs, and all the fear that I was, you know, holding inside that was really in my way. And so with his support and the support of another mentor, Bill Porteous, who I still work with now, leading critical discussion groups and being part of a critical discussion group for myself, that was really the support I needed at that time to really just start to look at how, you know, what am I doing that's not supporting this process? And it was a long, hard look, Sandra.
I know, but I think that, you touched in many important points that I want to just go back there for a second, because I think that in the struggle is where we grow the most. We
Yes.
need to be in that struggle. Because I think that we all think that being an artist and going and painting every day, it's very joyful. Well,
Yes.
yeah, it is, and it's very therapeutic. It is, and we grow. But if you don't struggle, you don't grow.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like when you're a child and you're playing outside and you get dirty and you're on your knees and scraping, and that's what you want to do in painting. Because if you're not in the struggle, you will never get up there.
Yeah, and that's so interesting to think of it that way, because I really didn't understand that part, that the struggle was innate to the process, that it was actually my inability to accept the struggle. The meaning I was giving to the struggle was, I'm not good enough. Other artists don't struggle.
Right,
Obviously, I have a problem.
right,
Right?
right,
That's what I was thinking at the time,
right,
and
right.
feeling, very conflicted, because I knew this was something that I was really passionate about. I really wanted to do, but how could I be in so much angst and pain and resistance every time I went to do it? Like, those two things did not add up for me. So I kept thinking that, somehow there was something wrong. But what I really didn't understand was that I had to recognize that there's, the creative process generates anxiety naturally, because of what we're doing. I mean, we're dealing with the vast unknown. We're making millions of decisions all the time, trying to decide what we're doing in our work. And I really felt that there was no sort of support for me for that. So I had to sort of figure it out as I went along. And I didn't have, as you say, that relationship to struggle. I wanted to
Well, and I
avoid
think
the
also
struggle.
that I think that the struggle and the comparison with others, or
Yeah,
trying to be someone that you're not,
yeah,
and that I think you have to really look at yourself and be very grounded in your beliefs and in who you are as a person, and not have others. Because I think that minimizes yourself. It's something that it's so personal, but by you constantly looking at others and being like, I want to be them, I want to be like that, I want to
yeah.
paint like that, and always having that, it really truly just, I feel like you're under pressure for yourself, like you're doing that to yourself. And so instead of trying to stay in the struggle and doing what you need to do to get over it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, as a coach now, I talk a lot about being comfortable with the discomfort and learning how to use mindfulness practices, to check in with myself. I had no, even when I would be working in the studio, I often tell my clients this, I would stand at the easel with my left hand in a fist, clenched. Like I could feel it in my body, but I was unaware of it. And the clenched fist was where all that tension was being held, right? And so
Yeah.
quite often, I would have to shake out my hands and just try to release some of that energy. But as I've learned how to bring mindfulness into the practice, well, first of all, I prepare before I go into the studio. I know that, not so much now because I've had a lot more practice, so it's much easier. But in the past, I would have to take a lot of time at what I call transition type rituals, right? So things that would allow me to feel that more inner sense of inner spaciousness and connectivity. So I would journal write, I'd put on music, I'd make my cup of tea, I'd get in the zone before I'd start working. And I might not, if I had a bit of an absence from my work, I might not jump right back into a difficult painting that I was trying to resolve, but I would sort of find ways to enter into the creative process without it being so demanding, just to kind of get myself going again. So I had a lot of strategies that I could use for years, and that sort of rewired the brain, which is what
Yeah.
it kind of does. So now I
Right.
kind of come in here, and the minute I come in here, my brain knows what to do. It doesn't sort of fight anymore. It just goes, okay, yes, we're going to. So you just start. Like, I hadn't painted in a few weeks because I've been really busy, as you know, with some moving and a few things. So I hadn't painted in a few weeks. And last night I thought, I have to paint tonight. Like, I can't talk tomorrow if I haven't painted in 2 weeks. Like, so I just jumped right in, on a couple of panels last night. And I thought to myself, man, years ago I wouldn't have been able to do this, like after two
Yeah.
weeks of not painting.
Yeah.
So it's nice to acknowledge our own progress
Yes.
as well
Yes.
and
Yes.
notice the
And
shifts and changes.
100%. And, I keep hearing this again and again from Nicholas and from others coaches. If you have 20 minutes, probably your best work happens in those 20 minutes, in the
Yes.
first 20 minutes, right? It's when you stay longer and you correct and correct and correct that you're like, oh God, it was so good in the beginning.
Yes.
Because you're not thinking, you're just going and you're just, going through your senses and just, so I think that that's what happens after 2 weeks of not painting. You're
Yeah,
just not, there's no pressure, right? You're
that's
just
right.
kind of showing up and just doing something, and it loosens it up a little
Yeah, in the
bit.
past it would have been pressure for me, to kind of jump back in, but that's the difference for me now is I was able to jump back in right into a painting that I've been working on. So that's really different. And I think now too that I can go longer in the studio than the 20 minutes because I can recognize I have more awareness of the internal state that I'm holding, which I never had before. So even after those 20 minutes, I can check in, how am I feeling
Mm.
right now? And if I started to notice I have some anxiety arising about something that's occurring in the painting, I have practices now and strategies that can help settle me back into that space of openness so I can stay longer.
And
And
that's your creative coaching. Do
yeah,
you teach that to help artists
I
get in
do.
that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it really comes down to, and this is what I had a live session with my group yesterday, and we've been talking a lot about the inner critics, and actually, I was talking about the fact that we actually have a team of inner critics, not just one.
Exactly.
There's a team of them, and and some of them are really, they're really destructive in their speaking, and so we really need to hear the voices that in our heads when we're working and pay attention to them so that we can bring awareness to that, so we can do something about it, right? If we don't know what's going on in there, if we can't hear what's happening, then we're kind of just, we can get hijacked by that. But if you can pay attention and hear the voices and not react, but just observe and notice, you'll notice different tones of the voice. Some are really critical and really condemning, and others are kind of more discerning voices, that are
Mhm.
saying, well, actually, that's not quite right. Maybe you need to push that a little bit further, and so those voices, those internal judges, they might be actually helpful for you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I think that we have to listen to every single. I feel like I don't remember the name of the game when we used to go to fairs when I was a little girl, but they used to pop up and you used to hammer them
Oh, yes.
because they would come up. I don't remember the name, but they would pop up and you would have to hammer that to go down. I feel
Yeah.
like, because we're both very visual, and I feel like sometimes I have to do that constantly,
Yeah.
like, okay, just quiet down here, or
Yeah.
just here and here and here and here. And those are decisions that happen while you're painting. So you have to listen to what you are, what you're feeling, because it's a reaction to your painting. It's a reaction to your strokes. And
Hmm.
so it is very important to get in tune with your own self. And like I said, try your best not to be so judgmental,
Yeah.
because we are our worst enemies on doing that.
We are. And then the other layer to that, the next step of after you kind of listen and are aware is self-compassion. Like we
Hmm.
have to be compassionate towards the struggle that we're in. Art making is hard work. It's hard work, and it's different for every artist. I mean, I worked with a lot of clients and everyone has different concerns. But I really feel that self-compassion and that ability to self-nurture, to self-support, is so important in order for us to keep moving forward. So much of why artists stop, and the reason I was stopping was because I wasn't meeting myself with any kindness. I was just, constantly pushing and criticizing and demanding. And art making has always been a real powerful vehicle for my own self-reflection. For me, it's such a healing thing to do because it totally shows me what I need to clear away in order to be present. What do I need to
Hmm.
clear away to be present with the art? And being present is just being mindful and aware and connected, right? And so that's the space we want to be in when we're making our art. And yes, we need to think, we need to have those moments of discernment and analysis, and those things are really important too. It's just knowing when to bring that in, at
Hmm.
what stage of your painting to bring that in, what stage of your process. And having that sort of that sensitivity to yourself to really check in will, you know, really allow you to kind of move through that in a much more supportive way, so that you want to come back to the studio the next day. You know, I
Right,
remember feeling such
exactly.
struggle coming back into the studio after having a bad day because I was so hard on myself. I had nothing left, you know, and then I try to go back in there, you know, into the boxing ring the next day with myself. So
Right.
it's such an important part, you know, the self-compassion and the nurturing that we need to
So
do.
let's go back, Cheryl, for a second, because when you said you were 30-ish and you
Yep.
went back to school at that
I was
time,
about
40,
40,
40.
40. Yep.
You know, that is such an example of there is no age limit as to when you can start painting.
No. Yeah.
You know, anytime you can start doing anything, not just paint. I'm talking across the board. You
Hmm.
know, you can decide to switch your whole life and go wholeheartedly to something that makes you happy.
Absolutely.
And I think that you really found that coming from your harsh background. I think in a way art saved you. Um, you know, you found yourself, your language, your communication came through in a whole different way that you couldn't probably do it at that time. You were so hard on yourself
Hmm.
that you couldn't see the breakthrough. And I think that for you, really, I admire that you clearly had that path for you and you knew that that was going to save you in a way.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think that I didn't really realize that art would be the savior until, you know, until much later. But I think when we follow that impulse, that passion that we have for something, and we devote ourselves to it, and we do the work that needs to be done in order to be truly present for it, it does show up. But art making has definitely been the most amazing transformative vehicle for me. Everything that I've ever struggled with has shown up in the work,
Mm-hmm.
and for me to witness, you know. And so and when I first went to art school, I was absolutely certain I was going to be a figurative painter. That was all I wanted to do, because I'd been drawing the figure for quite a long time. And I think it was second year they were introducing us to abstraction, and I remember seeing Cy Twombly's work for the very first time, and I had no understanding or any capacity for how to let that in, to understand what that work was about. But we were introduced to the idea of automatism and the surrealist movement, and I started in that connection with automatic painting, automatic writing, and the, you know, the subconscious was really fascinating to me. And at the same time, I had had a lot of counseling myself, but I was also training as a lay counselor, and I was volunteering hours at a center, and I was sort of going in these two directions. I was either going to go into psychology and therapy, because I wanted to pay back and I wanted to help others the way that I was helped, or I was going to go towards art. And so I was kind of doing those two paths, but art won out, because I was so sensitive and so empathetic that I was having a hard time separating myself from clients. But now the coaching kind of bridges both of those things for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that, you know, I'm filling those two purposes. The desire I've always had to serve others and to be contributing something and helping, and the purpose of making art. So I'm just so blessed. I'm so blessed to be able to do this work. I'm so grateful, you know, to Nicholas Wilton for giving me the opportunity to be a CVP coach for the 3 years that I was there. Learned so much through that experience, you know, hundreds and hundreds of artists, and you're going through it right now, so you know
I
what it's
am.
like.
I
So
sure am.
yeah, so you see it all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the big mirrors for me too, was seeing how many artists struggle with their own self-belief, and, you know, so yeah, so it's just been, I'm
And
just so
it's
grateful.
interesting to see, like, there's a community on Facebook that I'm a part of, and you know, some of the comments, and I try not to go so much in there because I'm doing this for myself.
Yeah.
And but some of the comments are very harsh on themselves,
Hmm.
and you know, and you have to nurture yourself and you have to be good to yourself, and you're doing this because you want to grow and you want to learn, and again, it's that comparison. It starts to you know, creep on you, and you
Yeah.
just, you need to just, you know, like I said with the hammer, Just that one needs to be hammered down really badly, you know?
Yeah, and in
And
some
so,
ways, you know, Sandra, it's not a bad thing in the sense that um, the reframe for that would be that you get to see how critical you are on yourself. You may not realize it at the time, but you know, in reflection, you might say, you know, you might recognize, well, I am very critical. You know, like when you
mhm.
can be in a forum, a safe place, like that Nick and his team creates, where people can truly share what they're feeling.
Yeah,
You know, one of the things that I really enjoyed supporting at that time was to say to people, it's okay to express that this is how you're feeling. And at the same
yes,
time, can you notice how
yes,
you feel inside when
yes,
you're saying this about yourself, right? Can you
yes.
notice the quality of that feeling? And if you were to change that slightly, change the wording slightly, if you were to change the tone slightly, if you were to, you know, make that statement more hopeful, like even just adding the word yet or right now to the end
Yes,
of a statement is
I
just contextualizing
100%
it.
agree with that. A
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I 100% agree with that. And also just to be, you know, inspired by others instead of comparing yourself. If you change the word comparison to it be inspired,
Yes.
um, that is the key too.
Yep. Yep. And it's like a switch we can do in our brain when we practice it, when we think, well, what's the reframe for this, or how can I switch this? And it's not to deny our feelings, because our feelings are real, but sometimes they're not true. You know, I often say that it's real but not true, because in the moment you're kind of being triggered by some old narrative or some old feeling that, you know, is part of your history, part of the conventions around you, whatever it might be. But they're still real feelings in the moment. So we need to honor
Yes,
them. But at the same time,
100%.
we can challenge them in a kind way and say, well, is this how I want to support myself right now? You know,
Yes,
is this
yes,
what I want to offer myself? Is there another
yes,
way I can do this? Right. So
yes.
that's a lot of what I teach in my program, you know, the artist mindset program, which I run usually once a year. I'm not running it this spring because of my renovations that are happening. Hopefully in the fall, that's my goal. I've done it 2 years in a row now. And excuse me, it's a limited sort of group coaching program. And so we really dive deeply together into these territories. And I've developed some exercises that can sort of bring that up for people as we work on the program
So
together. And so,
can you, since you are touching into
yeah,
your coaching business, can you tell us a little more, like go deeper into what it is and what you
sure.
offer and how you help artists?
You bet. So my business is called Insight Creative. And so the website is insightcreative.ca. If anyone's curious, I've got lots of content on there because I write a lot. I've got a very lengthy blog, series of blog posts. And I send out a monthly newsletter with content for artists as well. But my focus the last year I was with CVP, I realized how much I wanted to work in this area of mindset, that was really what I was most interested in, because it's so personal for me. If I can help one artist to not struggle as much as I struggled, then that's just a gift. So my work is really focused around that. It's about the understanding how to build a healthy and resilient mindset. You know, what do artists need to cultivate within themselves to make their most authentic work and to encounter all of the challenges that you're going to face as an artist. And as I've said before, this isn't taught in art school. We don't know. We're kind of, you know, we go through the education, we build our skills and we develop, but then when we're out there in the world, we're encountering these external feedback components, you know, the jurors, the shows, the
Right.
patrons, the sales, the not sales, the likes, you know, the no likes. So we have to have some sort of a core foundation that allows us to stay the course with our work. And that's what I really work on. Getting to know yourself and getting to know what makes you tick, but also getting to know what stands in your way. And so I offer one-to-one coaching with clients. And I also do, as I said, once a year, a group coaching program, which I cap off at about 60 people because that's about as many as I can work with in that group environment. And then from there, I have a community, a membership community that once people have done the program, they can join the membership community. And it's just limited to those participants that have been in the program. So again, it's another safe, small group that off Facebook. It's a private community that we continue to do the good work. And I do a live coaching session there once a month. So that's really it in a nutshell. I mean, I teach strategies, I teach mindfulness practices. We talk about the journey of an artist, you know, from emerging to finding a position with your work and taking that position. We talk about inspiration and influences. How do we find inspiration and how do we use influence? Because we're all being influenced all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't deny that, but how do we use it? You know, how do we harness that? And the, you know, the goal ultimately is to help everyone become their own creativity coach, really, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I've done my job if people don't really need me, you know, that they're able to do it for themselves. And I
Yes.
take great joy when I can witness that happening in my community, them
Yes.
self-supporting, and it's just a beautiful thing. So I'm so privileged to work with the artists that I get to work with. They're just amazing.
So
So
what inspires you? Who is your inspiration? Or
in terms of
is it
artists
a,
or
yeah, in terms of life in itself, like what inspires you or who inspires you or both?
that's a big question. I'm inspired by so many things, but I think I'm inspired mostly by, um, you know, people's courage, the stories that I hear of people overcoming. That's really, you know, amazing to me. The resilience that people have, the drive that people have. You know, even when they've been knocked down so many times, they get up. You know, so that's really inspiring. And I can't say, I mean, as far as artists go, I find so many artists inspiring. And I mean, right now, I'd have to say, you know, Bill Porteous has been one of my biggest inspirations and mentors for, I've been working with him for over 5 years as part of his critical discussion group. And
Wow.
Bill is, he's such an accomplished artist in our city. He does a lot of public sculpture and, you know, amazing work, and he's not really out there very well recognized, you know, and he has a lot of humility, but he has so much knowledge and so much wisdom, and he works so hard, and he's just got such a lot to share. So he's been, you know, really a big source of inspiration for me, and I've learned so much from him over these last 5 years. And I'm now leading a critical discussion group with him, and that's, you know, a huge privilege to
That's
do that.
incredible. That's
Yeah,
incredible. Incredible. I think that also what you do is you write a lot, and
I do.
and that helps to understand your work. It helps to understand your story. And I think that we as artists need to do that more. And because from there you also are learning so much. So whatever you're writing down, it's your subconscious, because you're not really thinking, if you're just, you know, writing things down. But then when you look at it in a more critical way, you're understanding a lot of things that maybe you didn't understand before.
Yeah, I've been a huge fan. I mean, ever since I did the artist's way, excuse me, I went to art school, I started keeping sketchbooks and journals. So, you know, since 2000 and something, I've been a journal or a sketchbook, and I have what I call a creativity journal. So everything goes into this one book. I teach this in my program, and if you sign up for my newsletter on my, which I'm not plugging for, but if you sign up there, you'll
I
get a
am.
PDF. Oh,
I
okay.
am.
Well, you'll get a PDF download about how I use them and how I create them, and because it's a core component of my practice, which is to be self-reflective. But to have one book where everything goes, I work in it, I sketch in it, I paint in it, I write my introspective thoughts in it, I write my shopping list for the art supply store, I take notes, you know, it's everything goes in there. It's not precious, but it's absolutely sacred, you know. And I have, I don't know how many I have of them over the years, and it's an amazing experience to go back and look at what I was thinking about and what I was writing about in 2001, you know, and how much has changed and what my big concerns were. And, you know, it's funny that I'm doing so much writing because I never did well in school with writing, even in college. I always felt I was a terrible writer. I really tried hard in college in English 101, and, you know, I never got higher than a C in English. And here I am doing all this writing. So I don't know what that's
Don't
about, but
talk to me about English 101. When I moved here and I had to take that class, I was dying.
it's
Dying,
tough,
because
isn't
it was
it?
well, yes, it was English my second language. So it was so hard. It was
Yeah.
so hard.
I can't even imagine adding that layer to
Oh,
it, Sandra,
oh
because it was
God.
enough.
I
Yeah.
still struggle with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm doing my best, but I still struggle with it. So,
You're doing great. You're doing great. And it's amazing what we're capable of, though, even though I've had the story inside,
yeah.
and there'll be people who will tell
Yeah.
me, "Oh, you're such a great writer." And I'm like, I'm absolutely blindsided by that when they say it. Are you kidding me? Like,
You
but,
are though, like
thank
it's
you.
and we'll talk at the end and you give us all the information as where we can find you
You
because
bet.
everyone should go find Cheryl. Everyone should have a Cheryl in their lives.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
it's important to have a community of people that have the same beliefs that you do. Find those people because you will lift each other up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it is so important to have that. So don't isolate yourself. Look out for your community of people that will help you grow. It's
Absolutely.
so
And what a
important,
time we're in where that can happen. Like we're all, I mean,
right?
look at, we're connected. I mean, I'm connected with so many artists from around the world. I never would have imagined that possible. In 2000, when I first started, I had my own little world, my world here in Victoria, and now it's expanded, beyond
Yeah. I mean,
horizons.
I've met artists from all over the world willing to open their studios and their inspirations and their process to the world because we are, we're craving it.
Yeah.
And it's important to be out there if you can. It would really, really help you out so much, more than you can think of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So okay, so now we are so
Yeah.
excited because we're going to take a tour of this incredible studio. Jealous.
Yeah.
I'm very jealous, and I can
I
be because
know.
your studio is insane. So, Cheryl, if you can pick up the phone now
Hmm.
and
I'll just turn the
turn the
camera.
camera around and take us around.
There we go. Okay, so I don't know how good I'm going to be at this managing the camera, but bear with me because this is new.
You're doing
So
great.
you
I'm
guide me.
looking at your trees that are just,
I know.
oh,
Well, I have to take you up to the view because I was looking at it this morning going, and I don't know if the light's going to be just right, but
oh,
there's the forest
God.
out there. You're seeing some reflection, but it's just such a beautiful morning. And this is what I get to look out at every day. It's just like
Oh.
peace and serenity. So I am truly, truly blessed. But I'll just sort of tour you a little bit around. So this is kind of my tool station here. This is where a lot of my scrapers and brushes and all that. And I've got a magnetic strips on the wall to hang
Do
them
you have
up
any
there.
like favorite tool,
Well,
Cheryl?
these scrapers, I'm actually just working on this piece last night, but I was looking at it going, well, this is what I have. Nothing but scrapers, a whole bunch of scrapers. I use these, really large, I don't know how to do that, but these really
We can see
large,
it if you put it on the table. Yeah,
yeah,
those
there you
are
go. There
awesome.
we go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
those really large ones for the broader strokes, and then I have different sizes. And I have one really giant one. I'll just take you way down here. It's huge.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the
Yeah,
ones that the tapers and drywallers
yeah,
use.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can use that for big paintings. But those are typically what I use along with brushes and whatnot. So I use the Stabilo pencils a fair bit, drawing media, acrylic paint, and it's just a back and forth process. But one of the things that's really, I'll just tour you around this way a little bit. So hang on, I'm a bit close here. Sorry, Sandra.
No, you're good.
So this is my painting
Oh,
walls here,
wow.
and I've got lots of work finished on the walls and some in process. But I've been
Wow.
working on this series, which I'm calling the Dialogue series, which really started. So a lot of these panels that you see that are duo panels sitting together, kind of like diptychs, but they're not exactly diptychs because they're
And they're
actually more.
I'm just clarifying, they're wood panels.
They are with paper mounted on the panel.
Okay.
So this is a good example of, I was working on the one on the right here last night. So the one on the left is kind of just an underpainting, just, little black paint marks just to activate the surface. But if I go up real close, you can sort of see there's paper mounted onto the panel itself. So I love working on paper, but I don't like having to present paper. So I mount the paper on the panel before I begin working. And
Oh, you
then,
do it before. I know a lot
yep.
of people that do it after.
Yeah, and I have
Um,
done that too with my smaller works, but I I know that the larger work, that can be a little trickier mounting. So I actually just prefer to, and everything I do is on paper on panel, pretty much.
And can you talk about the process of mounting? What do you use and how do you do it?
Yeah, you bet. It's really quite simple. I use matte medium. So I would
Okay.
typically, have a station like this here, and I would have my panel on the table and my paper, and I put matte medium on both sides.
Okay.
And then I spritz it with water, and I think that's one of the tips because it dries so quickly, right?
Hmm.
So I spritz it with water, and then I'm trying to look for the little scraper here. Apologies. So it's just a little soft yellow wallpaper scraper type of a tool. And I just sort of work from the center and spread out the
The
medium.
bubbles or the
Yeah.
medium, yeah.
And the paper's always bigger than the panel, so I trim it afterwards.
And then do you put books or something to weight it?
Yeah, I do usually flip it over and then but I find that it's really, the way I'm doing it, it gets really flat. There's no air bubbles and it pretty much dries that way. Very stable. So I'm not.
What paper do you use? Like
Yeah,
40
that's a good
pound
question.
or?
It's a lighter weight paper. It's a
Oh,
Strathmore. I think it's 250 GSM, something like that. So it's
okay.
probably 90 pounds or just, yeah, it's not very
Yeah.
heavy. The heavier
Okay.
paper does create a little more buckling and that kind of thing. So,
Yes.
so
So
let's see.
let's go back to the wall before we
Sure.
move on. Yes. You have a very particular language of geometric, rhythmic way of approaching your artwork. It has
Mm-hmm.
a lot of horizontal and vertical lines that they kind of repeat themselves in a
Yeah.
way that you have a very well language through the whole painting, and your eye really goes from point A to point B to point C, and it really takes you around, which is really hard to do. And I think that you really have that.
Oh, thank you. Well, this series came out of the sketchbook challenge that I was talking to you about. I did last year about this time after I finished my program. I really felt like I needed a way in. So I thought I'm going to make a challenge for myself. I'm going to work in the sketchbook every day for 30 days. And maybe some people want to join me, maybe my graduates from my program, maybe my membership community. And then I thought, well, I'll launch it broader and see if anybody else on Instagram or Facebook. And it just took off. There were so many people that joined in and it was so exciting.
Yes.
And so these paintings came out of that process because oftentimes, and Nick was the first one to point this out to me, when he saw my sketchbooks, which I kept very secret, he said to me, look at what you're doing here. Like, how come you're not doing that in your painting? And I'm like, I don't know, because I guess nobody's going to see it in my sketchbook, right? So there was this real oh my goodness, I have so much more freedom there than I do in my painting. So when I finished the 30-day challenge, actually, I'll just take you over here because I've got a few of them laid out on the
Yes. Oh my
table.
God, that I'm so excited. Oh,
Yeah. So each one of them, gets a cover, right? I end up painting the cover, but and I was looking at these last night, see if I can do this in a way that I can still see
much
what's
better.
happening.
Yes.
Yeah. So this particular set of pages here, and you'll see that on my Instagram post that I was sharing, was sort of the first day it clicked to me what I was doing in my sketchbook. This was probably day 17 or something. And there was a dialogue going on between the two pages.
For sure.
And this structure that you're talking about was also showing up. Now, this drawing over here in my sketchbook, that's from 2014.
Oh,
This is from 2014.
wow.
Okay, so I was doing that in my sketchbooks, but I was not doing it in my painting. I was avoiding what was natural to me because I had some judgment about structure. I had some judgment about delineating the space by defining it that way. I wanted my work to be more organic and more open and blah, blah, blah. But I was avoiding what was coming naturally to me. So this is actually, I'm showing you this one here because this was actually the very first of the 30-day sketchbook pages that I did. And you can already see there's a bit of structure showing up there.
Yep.
And then it just kind of kept moving. And then when I finished it all, I started thinking about the structure and the dialogue on the pages, and I said to myself, I'm going to paint that way. So I created, you know, panels that were the same proportions as the sketchbooks, and I approached them exactly the same way. And every time I came up against a challenge or resistance, or my mind was trying to tell me, oh no, you can't do that, I'd say to myself, would I do it in my sketchbook? And the answer inevitably was yes. And then I would just move in and do it. And so this whole series, there's, you know, I think I've got 14 of them done now. I'm heading for 20, called the Dialogue series. It's really just a direct response, you know, out of that whole engagement with
Yes.
the
And I
dialogue.
really can see the quiet conversation and the loud conversation happening,
Yep.
and the values and design that, you know, that Nick has provided to us. And I do see, you know, how balanced it is in a way, and it's okay to be so structured. I actually I think that sometimes, like you were saying, we push that away, but
Mm-hmm.
when we embrace it, things like this happen.
Yeah, and I like both organic. There we go. You know, the organic mark making and the
Oh,
sort
I
of
love that one, that conversation.
this
Oh
one up
my
here.
gosh.
Yeah, this
Yes.
was one of the first ones that came out of
Wow. Can
the
you come
series.
closer so we can see
It's a
the
bit
mark
high,
making?
so I'm not sure if I
Oh,
can.
sorry. Okay, that's okay. No worries. Oh, the
It's on the higher
layers on
part of the
it. I
wall.
mean, the
Yeah.
history that has underneath it, you know, it seems like it has a lot of layers. And
Well,
so,
it doesn't have as many layers as you would think. That's what's
oh,
surprising about
interesting.
this process. They were quite immediate. Um,
Hmm.
like I work, well, if I'm, sorry, spin it
Do
around
you
here.
put a timer on them or
Nope,
no?
no, I don't. But you know what? This is one that I'm working on right now. So you can see it's
Uh-huh.
still, there's still a lot of white space,
Yes.
right? Coming
Yes.
through on the
Yes.
paper. And it's very
Yes.
thin right now. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm really digging, you know, like these areas here that is sort of the action between the acrylic paint and the Stabilo pencil. There's a lot going on, and my job will be to sort of kind of quiet that down a little bit, see what I want to keep, but nothing is precious. And it's just really about, you know, getting to that place where I feel that the work has structure and wholeness, but also the energy that I want it to have. And so it's, you know, the approach I have right now is just that everything is up for grabs here. Anything can
Right.
go, anything
Exactly.
can come.
Exactly.
And it's, so it's not really about so much that some of them don't have a lot of layers. Some of them come really quickly, and others
And you
are more
and you
labored.
have a great wall, right? Because you can move those panels very
Yeah.
easily because they have I don't know if they're 8 inches apart or you
Yeah,
know.
these, there's some, they're a different sort of, there we go. They're different, you know, I've got the screws in the wall. These are a particular type of screw that it's kind of a, it's hard to know if you can see it. It's got a little head on it.
Yep, yep, you
Yep.
can see
So
it.
you can actually, there's a hardware store here that sells them. So you can actually hang the paintings on them, but I have them at different intervals. At the top, they're a little closer, and some of them are wider, 16 and 8 inches. If some are, you know, I needed, because I do a lot of smaller pieces, I needed them closer together, but I also just stick little push pins in between. If I
Yes,
can't quite, you
yes,
know, as my walls
right.
are getting full of holes, but yeah, so
Yeah.
anyhow,
Um,
and this is the little
so
one, this is the little one we're talking about today.
oh my God. So you guys, Cheryl is so generous with me and Fitting America because we are selling this piece today for 350 and $350 and 100% of the proceeds will go to Feeding America. So if you're interested in purchasing this incredible artwork by Cheryl, please either DM me or Cheryl and we'll let you know what you need to do. But it goes directly into Feeding America. You will be helping 3,500 meals by
Wow.
purchasing this particular incredible painting by Cheryl. So
Oh,
please
that's awesome.
consider, I know, right? I mean, just consider that you'll be getting an incredible piece of artwork and you will be helping 3,500 meals. So please let us know if you guys are interested. I'm going to turn on the comments in a little bit
Yep.
for questions. And if you're interested in buying it, please just let us know. So
And I'll
thank
let
you, Cheryl.
You're welcome, and I'll just sort of scan the side because it's mounted on a cradle panel, so it is on paper, but it's mounted. This is one where I worked on paper first and mounted it second, but the
Yeah.
sides are natural finish with a varnish. And I'll ship free anywhere to Canada or the US for
That's
anybody that
great.
wants to buy it,
Yes.
because I want to really support what you're doing here and hope that I can generate those 3,500 meals for you.
I know. I really hope so too. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we are doing this, because we are getting together as a community of artists to support each other, but also to help our community at large. So,
Yeah.
so that's really important to me and to Cheryl. So let's hopefully sell this today. So,
Yes, let's
um,
do it.
yes, Cheryl. So, will you just show us your table with all the incredible things that you haven't shown us?
Well, I have a little section over here with some more small paintings waiting to go somewhere. I'm looking to do a show at some point this year. Everybody's been kind of struggling with, where to show and how to show, but I just keep making work, and sometime I know the show will show up eventually. So this is a fun little object. I have this obsession with boxes and sculptural forms as well. So I actually collect boxes, and I collect a lot of odd things and make these assemblages. And you'll see down here, there's a lot more paintings, and there's also a whole cabinet full of odd boxes and weird things. So that's something else I do kind of quietly in the background of my other work. And this is a bigger piece that I show a fair bit. It's sort of featured on my website, but this is kind of my little cozy sitting area where I read. And then I have a bookcase over here, and this is always very telling about who I am as an artist, right? Because what do we collect? What's on our
Um,
shelves, right?
mm,
These
I
are a
hope
lot
I'm
of
not
my
losing
little
you,
things.
Cheryl. Oh, there we go. Yes,
Oh, are you
I
losing?
lost you there for a second, but we're back. Thank God.
Okay. Thank God.
You
Maybe
know,
I'm moving around too much with the
you know
Wi-Fi.
what? Do you see this? And then you see your paintings and you see how much they speak to each other, your boxes, your structure,
Yes.
the way you are organizing every little thing, and the repetition of the lines, horizontal, vertical. I
Right.
mean, it is spectacular to see these little boxes next to your paintings. I mean, they just make so much sense.
Right. It's always been there. That's the funny thing. This one was gifted to me, actually. That little black one there, that was
Yeah.
gifted to me by Marguerite Hoog, who's a lovely artist, and she sent that to me. So that one's not mine. I just wanted to. And then I have a little. Am I still good here?
Yes.
I
Yes.
have a little stairwell that goes up to my office. Those of you that work with me know that my little loftus is up there. That's where I do my coaching, and it's might be a little hard to see these, but I also for years and years and years have worked on Mylar. I'm not working on it currently, but these frame pieces are done with oil and charcoal and graphite on Mylar. So that's
Ah.
another area that there's some work like that on my website, but it's something that I haven't done for quite a few years, but I spent a number of years working in that way.
Working on that. Do you like
Mhm.
now using the paper on panel better than
Well,
Mylar, or just different, I guess?
it's different. And one of the things was that I was so engaged with printmaking and Mylar that I wasn't working on my painting at all. So I told myself I'm going to stop and just do the painting until I feel like I've kind of exhausted that a little bit, and then I might
Yes.
go back. I have a very small printmaking studio out in my yard, which I've had for years. It's just a tiny little 10 by 6 or something.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah,
Oh, I need to come over,
you
Cheryl.
do.
I need to paint right there next to
Well,
you.
this
Oh,
studio has been 18 years in the making, and I've been in garages, I've been in the loft of my living room, I've been in an old schoolhouse here in my community, and so this has been we've
a labor of
salvaged a
love.
lot of
Yes.
materials, yeah, to build this. This post and beam came out of a old bar, a pub here on the island when it was dismantled. So there's a really big beam up there. Right. So
Cool.
repurposing a lot of materials to make this happen. And this, the stairs are just wooden treads, right? We didn't even finish them. They're just, because they got beautiful patina. My husband's like, "Do you want me to cover them?" I'm like, "No, leave them
And
as
you,
they are."
I mean, but your view is just so inspiring to really be there every single day. I
It
mean,
is.
it makes me want to breathe and just stay in the moment. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just so magnificent. It really, truly is.
Thank
So
you.
Cheryl, let's turn the camera around and I'm going to
Okay.
turn the comments back on for people to ask you questions. And I would love to ask you, what would be maybe 3 tips or 1 tip that you give to not only emerging artists, but artists in general?
Um, well, as I've said before, I think that one of the biggest uh, access points we have to our art making is ourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you can know about yourself, the more that you can connect in and have a healthy relationship with yourself. And I know that isn't necessarily about the art, but it is so much about the art, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have an understanding of who we are and how to relate to this process that we're engaged with, which is a demanding process, we will never get to that place that we all want to get to, right? And where do we all want to get to? We want to get to know our voice. That's what the most common thing that artists ask for is, what's my voice? What's my style? Who am I? And the only way to find that out is to do a lot of work and to not judge the work as it's evolving. You know, if yes, you can critique it and be discerning, but if you can allow yourself to unfold in the work and to reveal itself over time, and as much as you can hold space for that within yourself, like create a space within yourself to make the work from, first and foremost, and then trust the process, because it will teach you, it will guide you, it'll show you who you are. And clear out as much as you can along the way. You know, it's hard work, but you know, there's so much support out there. I'm not the only coach working in this field, and you know, there's so many artists that are contributing and sharing so much about their own process now and talking about it. So it's just, I think that's what I would say, you know,
Yeah,
create that relationship with yourself.
yeah. And do you, where do you see yourself growing with this?
Hmm.
With your coaching, with your artistry, with yourself?
Well, you know, I'm not a big goal setter. That I tend to just trust and follow. But I do have a book in the works for the 30-day sketchbook project. Was so inspiring to me that I decided I wanted to document that process and create a book around it, so that others can, you know, in the future could follow a process like that. So I'm working on that. It's very slow coming. I've, I need to spend some time writing and focusing on it, but that's something that I've got ahead. And just to continue doing the work that I'm doing, you know, to continue to be of service to artists in this way and build that
I think
community.
you should. The comments that are coming in are people that love you and
Mm.
really respect you as a person and as an artist. And I am one of your biggest fans.
Oh, thank you,
I'm so
Sandra.
happy that I came across you and your beautiful soul. And I know we are just starting a relationship, and I
Yep.
look forward to continue that. And remember, guys, um, please consider buying Cheryl's piece today. We are going to make so many people so happy. And Cheryl, where can we find you? Where can we find your coaching and your artwork? And
Yep.
I'm gonna put it underneath our interview, but just tell our audience here, where can we find you?
Sure. Well, my art you can find at cheryltaves.com, and my coaching is insightcreative.ca. And I'm on Facebook with both. So Insight Creative Coaching on Facebook and Cheryl Taves Art on Facebook, and the same handles for Instagram. So you can find me there. And
Perfect.
yeah, but it's been so great to talk with you today. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful guide for my first foray into Instagram Live.
You can do it. You're a rock star. I knew it from the beginning. So,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Really, this was such a beautiful interview. You gave us so much insight and so much food for our souls. And I'm so thankful. And please,
Me
someone
too.
out there, buy this painting. Let's help people. Thanks,
Yeah,
Cheryl.
you're welcome.
See you,
Thank you, Sandra.
everyone.
Bye,
Take
everyone.
care.
You
Bye
bet.
bye.
Bye-bye.